Alright, what is up, y'all? It has been some time since I've been able to do a video. I've been trying very hard to get around to doing this one because it's something important that I want to put online that, really everybody should listen, but hopefully it will get out there and people will hear it. I'm just kind of outside walking around. Today is Sunday, August 18th of 2025, and I want to get this up before, I have a feeling once AI goes online, it's going to go through and find videos like this and just start deleting them, comments, everything, posts. Anything that goes against the narrative, I think, is going to start getting erased very quickly. So before that happens, I want to get this video out there so people can hear it. Anyhow, I came home a few weeks ago on a Friday night, and I was all pissed off about ridiculous prices and all kind of crazy shit that just things that are going on in the world, and I was pissed off, and I was pissed at the people who I should be pissed at, and that is the Bilderberg Group. If you've never heard of the Bilderberg Group, Bilderberg space Group, the Bilderberg Group. That's basically the super rich co-op that is running the world and has been for 71 years now. They did it in secret for such a long time that they got such a foothold in this world that by the time people started to realize it, it's kind of hard to do much about it now anyways. The first step is educating yourself on the subject. Thankfully, anyways, a couple weeks ago when I got home, it was a Friday night, and I just, off the top of my head, I fired off about a 5-hour soliloquy about all the shit that the Bilderberg are doing and have been doing and are doing and are going to do, and it was perfect because it was set out of anger. The problem is trying to replicate that. Had I known it was going to be such a good presentation, or a good amount of knowledge, I would have recorded it, but I did not know until I was halfway through it, and then I couldn't start over. So, trying to get something going here, and like I said, trying to force it just doesn't seem to come off as good as if it comes out in anger. But anyhow, I'm tired of sitting around waiting for that to happen. So I'm pissed off regularly, but just not normally at a time where I could record a video on it. Pissed off at the super rich people, not in general. So anyhow, some back history. The Bilderberg Group was formed in 1954, just 8 years after World War II ended, and it was a group of the richest, most powerful people in the world coming together behind closed doors and having a weekend-long meeting about what's going to happen in the world. My guess is, because before World War II, even though rich people would work together sometimes for their own mutual benefit, but a lot of times they were trying to put each other out of business. They were more focused on being the top richest person in the world or whatever, opposed to the others. And there were stories about, was it Rockefeller trying to put Vanderbilt out of business with his railroads? So because dude tried to, charge him more to ship his oil, so he just said screw it and built the pipeline, and that screwed Vanderbilt, at least to some extent. And, like I said, they used to be against each other. But after World War II came, and they realized how close they came to losing everything to some maniacal fucking nut job. Not that they're not as well, don't get me wrong. But once they realized how close they came to losing everything to Hitler, or whoever would succeed him, they decided, in less than a decade, they decided to start working together. And that's what they did. Now they have met every year since 1954 behind closed doors. They take over a hotel, they surround it with armed guards with machine guns, and no one's allowed in or out. Nothing's recorded, and everything's supposed to be kept in secret. If anybody's watching and you just want to listen, there's not really anything to watch except my mug here, so you really don't have to watch the video if you just want to listen to it. But anyhow, they formed their group And since 1954, there's only been a couple things that have ever come out. And that is the oil crisis in the 70s was all manufactured. I'm certain there was not even an actual oil crisis. It was just all made up to just jack the fucking price of oil up. And even if there were no known recorded billionaires at the time, which I'm not sure when the first billionaire appeared, but anyways, I'm certain that they made a fucking killing off all that money. And it screwed people over significantly. It had an impact on the automotive market. As you can see, I've looked into a lot of old muscle cars, and I realized that right about 1970, somewhere between 73 and 74, all the car companies decided to start making. I got people coming. Yeah, right. I hope that doesn't keep happening. They started making economy cars after that. All the muscle cars kind of died off except for a couple. But that's, the least important change. But, you could see it when it happened. Basically, just by looking at old cars, you can tell when that happened. So, I also heard that the European Union was their idea, which makes sense. And also that the creation of the euro was theirs. And years ago when I had heard this, just maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, I looked it up, and at the time, actually no, we'll say the last time that I looked it up was probably about 4 years ago, roughly, and the euro was like, as far as the most viable forms of paper currency, the euro was 2 places ahead of the American dollar. So that makes sense to me too. When you start looking at the Bilderbergs, like the people who are members of this group are the richest people that we know of, people who I'm sure we have never even heard their names, know nothing about them, that are far richer than anybody we've ever heard of. When you hear someone say, "Oh, so and so is the richest person in the world," I would bet my life that is not in fact true. Because if you had a trillion, not $1 billion, but $1 trillion, would you want anybody knowing who you are or knowing that you exist? I know I wouldn't. If you had any sense, you wouldn't want people to know. Because then people can start asking a lot of questions. Is how the fuck did you get that much money? But, so you get people like the owners of the weapons manufacturing companies that make the weapons of war, like not just guns, I'm talking like tanks, fighter jets, all that kind of shit, missiles. The owners of those companies, which is why war is profitable, because that's how they make their fucking money. Not profitable to us, of course, just profitable to the super rich. They don't care anything about our fucking lives. And you have the owners of the pharmaceutical companies, like Pfizer and Eli Lilly and all these other companies. And I think it was Pfizer that just had a massive lawsuit going on about, I don't know if it was over fentanyl or if it was over something else. Because keep in mind, even though you keep hearing about all this crazy shit with fentanyl, it was pharmaceutical companies that made that shit. It was a prescription drug. I believe it probably still is. Yeah, don't forget about that, because they are the ones that created that shit. Just like all the painkillers that people are addicted to. They made that shit too. So when you look at, you got the people who own the pharmaceutical companies, the one, I think it was Pfizer, had this massive lawsuit about intentionally dumping prescription narcotics into the streets, knowing what would happen, and they did it anyways. And some judge just said, nah, not responsible. That must be nice to have that much money that you can be responsible for probably millions of people dying at this point over the last few decades. And judge just says, nah, not your problem. Don't worry about it. You're good. We got you. I'm sure it costs a lot less to pay off a judge than it does to, pay out all these lawsuits. So, and that's how also they got out of it, because, if you're a Bilderberg member, you don't have to answer for your actions. Just why all these people who should be charged for war crimes and hung don't ever fucking spend a day in jail. That never happens, and they're fine. Other people who are members, the people that own all the fucking news and media outlets. So we're talking TV, radio, internet, all that shit. People that own all those things, that own all the news stations, they're all members. And I'm sure there's not that many of them either. There's probably just a few people who own all of it, because that's how it goes. But those people are members. So the news, that's why you shouldn't trust the news, because it is agenda driven. That's why it seems that way, because it actually is agenda driven by the rich fuckers that made it and make up, all this bullshit in the world. They're the ones that are pitching their social programming and all kind of other shit through the news. Pretty much all of the presidents, like the two main presidential candidates in pretty much every election, at least as far back as Reagan. Those people have all been members. So not only was Reagan a member, you had Bush Sr., Bush Jr., I'm sure Jeb was a fucking member, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton's a member, the Obamas are members, what else we had? I don't know if Trump was in the beginning. I have a feeling that they probably didn't want him in their group, and I have a feeling, I'll get to this later, but I have a feeling he is now a Bilderberg member. I believe he put in his bid to become one and achieved it, but we'll get to that later. And either way, I don't trust any motherfucking person that's running as president. I don't care who they are. Trump, Kamala, Biden. Oh yeah, he's a member too, or was. They kind of kicked his ass to the curb. But Biden, the Obamas, Clintons, Bush family, Reagan, all them motherfuckers, man, they're all members, or were, if they're still alive. Who else? Oh yeah, all the people that own all the fucking world banks. So the the Federal Reserve is not actually a federal entity, it's a privatized bank. And all these people with all these banks have, through loaning money and doing all kind of shady shit, they have gained insane amounts of power that nobody should have. Same with all the rest of these fuckers that are in the group. You got all the so-called royalty that's still left. As a lot of them were killed off in the early 1900s, I believe. After World War I think they said. I didn't know that much. I don't know that much about World War I. All right, I've learned some of it recently. Basically, it seems like World War I was just a massive war waged over the egos of fucking rich, super rich people. Should have never happened. It was a fucking bunch of bullshit. And then World War II happens. That one I know an extensive amount about. But anyhow, so anybody in like big tech, they're all members. Elon has to be a fucking member, man. There's part of me that just keeps hoping that maybe he's not, but he has to be. You think if you decide to build rockets and fire fucking space shuttles, or not shuttles, but fire rockets into space, you think that the government's just gonna let you do that shit? I highly doubt it. You think if you wanted to bore a fucking tunnel under a major metropolitan area, that all you have to do is take out a permit to dig a fucking pit, and you can start boring massive tunnels underneath major cities? I don't know. I don't think they're going to let you do it. And own an electric car company, which up until, his Tesla took over after he took over the company, seemed to be the only, before that there were only a couple electric cars out there. May have been hybrids. I don't know if there are any fully electric vehicles or not. But I will say that since he started building them, and all of a sudden, every car company's building them like crazy. Who would have guessed? So, I mean, dude, he's got to be a member, man. He has to be. I think that he's a member and that he just sees a few things differently than the rest of the Bilderbergs. It's just, but not in ways that are really going to benefit us for the most part. Now, maybe he bought Twitter, it's like to try to conserve free speech. If so, that's good, but don't be mistaken. He is a member, I guarantee you. I would bet my left nut that he's a member of the Bilderberg. And leaders of various countries, like you think Putin and whoever dude running China is, you think that they're not Bilderberg members? I'm sure they're hanging out at the same fucking hotel one weekend out of the year plotting their crazy shit. Now, I don't know, it's just, there's so much fucking information to cover. Like I said, I fired off 5 hours off the top of my head and just kept on going, but finally got so late I had to go to bed. But they have been doing all kind of crazy shit all over the world. I would say anything crazy that's happened in the world since 1954 has been theirs. Every war fought, every war fought, obviously. But things like September 11th, the oil jumping up to like, we were paying like $5-6 a gallon in the Chicagoland area, Northwest Indiana area, for about 10 years. And we had it cheaper than a lot of other places. Some people were paying like, I think I had heard in Britain, they were paying them 10 pounds for a fucking gallon of gas. And since they don't use the imperial system, I don't know if they're even getting a whole gallon. They might have got a fucking liter for that much. But if you think that right there itself didn't create trillionaires, you're crazy. I would be willing to bet that there's at least one trillionaire, but I would bet that there's at least a few trillionaires, most likely, that we just don't know who they are. Look at the shit they're building in Saudi Arabia. The wall. Dude, just watch a few videos on how insane that shit is. And they want it to run for, in the end, they want it to run for like 170 kilometers or some vast distance like that. Yeah, that's just not cheap. It's not free. It costs a lot of money to make things like that. An insane amount. And they want a FIFA stadium up on top of all of it? Come on now. That alone is going to cost $1 billion plus. So where are they getting all this money from? Oil money, obviously. But think of how many billions or even trillions of dollars this fucking wall is going to cost them. It's crazy how super rich can just up and do shit like it's nothing. Like, look at Amazon. Because Bezos, Soros, they're members. There's some more, but I'm sure Bill Gates is a member. But Soros and Bezos are members. Well, look at what Bezos did. One day, they were using the USPS, FedEx, whatever, to mail your shit to you. And then all of a sudden, literally over fucking night, there were Amazon vehicles everywhere. I mean, one day they didn't exist, and the next day there are Amazon vehicles fucking everywhere. Now it's been a few years of it. Dude, they are fucking everywhere. How in the world? What was the tab on buying all these vehicles all at one time, getting them out there to the different areas, hiring people, training them whatever you got to train them, and getting them behind the wheel of a car and actually delivering vehicles? What do you think the tab on that was? I'm willing to bet it was fucking astronomical. But I'm sure the people who make the cars are also members too, so, you know, probably got a nice little discount on it. Well, yeah, the guy just said, fuck this already existing mail structure. We're just going to make our own mailing system and our own vehicles, and we'll just do it ourselves. How the fuck do you have money to just pop that out overnight? I don't care if you have $400 or $500 billion. You'd think that would have just depleted it entirely, right? Apparently not, because dude's out there building his super yacht, trying to, fighting with the Netherlands to take down a fucking bridge that's over 100 years old so he can sail his fucking sail yacht out of there. Fuck that guy. I'm glad to hear they did not cave. But then again, if you think about it, you're looking at history, I'm sure a lot of these billionaires and trillionaires that are out there, a lot of them came from the Dutch. There were rich Dutch people for a long time, so they might have more money than he has, who knows. Or somebody with a higher bankroll than Bezos has says, nah, we're keeping it. It's insane. Meanwhile, we're at a point where everything costs so fucking much money that you could barely put food on the table. I walk in the store and I grab a few things and I'm at $100 already. That just happened the other day. Barely had shit for when I spent like almost $140 or something, and I barely had anything to show for it. And while we're struggling to fight to put food on our tables, which obviously the super rich are not, the super rich are the reason all this shit costs so much. Don't believe no COVID bullshit fucking excuse. Oh, it costs fuck that. That's not true, dude. There's no way that's just true. Even if it did, you mean to tell me super rich couldn't have taken the little fucking hit? And when I say hit, it doesn't mean it's going to deplete their bank account. It just means their extra billions might just take it, a month longer, 2 months longer to get. But anyways, COVID's been over for a long time now. And yep, the prices are even higher now than they were during COVID. How the fuck is that? Because of rich people, super rich people, and greed. And when I say super rich, I'm talking like the multi-billionaires, not people who got, $1 million they've saved throughout their lifetime. I'm talking about like rich, so rich that like it fucking would just disgust most people. How much you want money. So they've been plotting and doing shit all over the world for 71 years. I'm willing to bet, I guarantee you, September 11th and COVID have their fingerprints all over it. I fucking guarantee you they do. Because look what happened with, look what happened with, damn it, I'm going to pause in a second. With September 11th, what's one of the two of the main things that came out of that? We invaded Iraq first, and Saddam, before he fled, lit all the oil fields on fire. Why would he do that unless he thought we were coming for it? Now, granted, I guess you could say, hey, he just doesn't want them to have it. But I'm sure that, when the news told us, oh, it's Bin Laden, he's from, I forget, Afghanistan or Pakistan. They're the ones that did it. Al-Qaeda's the ones responsible. But first we're going to go run over here to Iraq and, go steal the oil. Take Saddam out. And so they did. And the other major thing that came from that was the passing of the so-called Patriot Act. It's interesting how something that is just insanely unpatriotic gets dubbed the Patriot Act. That way nobody questions it. And if you do, people go, oh, you're a fucking traitor, dude. How you gonna fucking argue the Patriot Act? It's the Patriot Act. It's not the Traitor Act, It works, dude. If that shit works, it works. So you got, the Patriot Act is the unwarranted access of not just government agencies, but I'm sure corporations too, to have just complete unwarranted access to every bit of your data and information that they could possibly get, no matter how they go about getting it. Now, at the time, we did not know. We only knew what we had. We had cell phones. I had a Nextel. If I even had mine yet, because I didn't get a phone until like December of 2002. So they probably passed it before I even got one. But at the time, all you had was Nextel. All right, so they're tracking our location. I already assumed that to begin with. Maybe listening, maybe watching. But, I didn't, at the time, have anything to hide. And I remember thinking to myself, too, this shit actually got me a little bit. At the time, I was like, well, that is extremely fucked up that they're actually doing this, and it doesn't seem like anybody seems to care. People probably think it's a good idea, but at least for now, it's not going to pertain to me, but it's still wrong. Go on about our lives. Well, little did we know, the masses, little did we know that, 5-6 years later, roughly, that iPhones would be coming out. Smartphones would be made. We had no idea this information was coming. When they passed the Patriot Act, they made sure that they did it, good 5-6 years before we even knew that smartphones were going to be a thing. I think if they tried to pass it now, it might be harder, but at the same time, they've got people socially programmed so much, I don't think many people would even give a fuck. They'd probably still welcome their new tracking device. Because, now, my point with this is that when the Patriot Act came out, it didn't seem like there's a whole lot of information for the super rich to gather. Now we know that your entire life is on your phone. That's why they want kids to have phones in an early age so you can start recording everything your phone sees, hears, and does, everywhere it goes, everything from an early age. And I'm willing to bet that I would bet my fucking right nut here that there are massive storage databases somewhere that we don't know about, that are either they're pretending that there's something else, they make it look like something else, or what have you. But I'm willing to bet that there are massive storage databases that are just everything your phone sees, everything your phone hears, everything you do, everywhere it goes, everything that's done on your phone, all of it is being recorded at all times. Now, for most people, this wouldn't affect them, because if they're just going about their socially programmed proper life, then they got nothing to worry about. But it's scary, man. It's fucking scary. It is, because I don't know. It's fucking scary, man. Now, oh shit, I done dropped y'all again. Okay, so at the time, Bush was a member, senior and junior. Probably Jeb too, because remember when the election happened and Al Gore got elected president, and they're like, wait, hold on. Let's do a recount in one state, and that state just so happened to be the governor of that state happened to be Jeb Bush Jr.'s brother. Who would have fucking thought? Even back then, I didn't even know about Jeb Bush being the governor of Florida, but even still, I was like, are you shitting me? This guy gets elected president, and they go, no, let's do a recount in one state. And all of a sudden, he's president? Now, knowing that Jeb Bush was the governor of Florida, it makes a lot of sense, but, you know, you could have had a recount in pretty much any state except for Texas, which they probably own, and Florida, which he was the governor of at the time. And I might have believed it, but as it stands, no, that's bullshit. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure Al Gore's a piece of shit too, but I'm willing to bet he knew full well that he was never going to be president anyways. But when you're running a puppet show here and you're trying to trick the world into thinking they actually have freedom and have two choices and can actually make the decision in 2000 of who's going to be the president, that, you know, they picked the wrong guy somehow and they're like, oh shit. So they did a recount. They had old Jeb Bush there do a recount, and guess what? His brother, and they found in favor, his brother actually was officially elected president. Who would have thought? Although if you look at it, Al Gore didn't make out too bad himself. He was given the whole, the spearheading position of the global warming topic, issue, whatever it is. And, yeah, he's a multi-billionaire too now. Shocker. But that's what tripped me up when Trump became president the first time. If he wasn't a member, how did he become president? But I think that he didn't need to be that time. That somehow he pulled it off, and he did, for whatever reason, we're not able to rig the election like they did in 2000. Maybe they feel that recount excuse is only good once in a generation or two, you know. Either way, he becomes president. I don't really notice anything else fucking change in the world. My life still went on exactly how it was, and I noticed no change. Prices were still ridiculous, and yeah. And then Biden comes in. Then all of a sudden, censorship becomes this huge thing, dude, where everybody's getting shut down for speaking their minds. And it's like, dude, I'm sorry, even if people say something you don't like or don't want to hear, we should still have the right to speak our fucking minds without ostracizing people or canceling people or what the fuck ever just because they say something you don't fucking like or something that goes against the narrative. But for the Bilderbergs, the narrative is imperative. Everything sticks to that fucking narrative. And when Biden was in office, it's like, dude, what the fuck happened to the world? We started drastically heading towards 1984 very quickly. Now, I always knew of the book, knew of the movie, knew the general plot of it. You know, I understood the gist of it. But I finally sat down and watched 1984, the original black and white movie from the 60s. From, I watched it here recently, and that's fucked up, man, because that's exactly where we were heading. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think that all of a sudden Trump jumped in and saved the fucking day. I think it was just a temporary break, and that we will be heading back to it very shortly. Maybe they'll wait until he's out of office, I don't know. But anyways, if you notice with Trump, because here's the thing, man, I can't believe that people were actually arguing and fighting and just going crazy over which billionaire was the best one to put in position. Like, they're all scumbags. Trump, Biden, Hillary, Kamala, like, they're all fucking just full of shit, man. They're all super rich motherfuckers that are white. They ain't worth a fuck to me. As a rule, I automatically don't trust them. Anyone who's a president or runs for president or is a billionaire, I just automatically don't trust anything they say or do. Now, for a brief time, I was getting for about a month or two, I kind of got my hopes up a little bit after seeing him on Rogan, which was a smart move on his part. I started thinking, okay, maybe there's somebody that cares. because you start seeing about all this corruption coming out and all this shit, just massive amounts of stuff, which the crazy part is, not one bit of the information that came out shocked me at all. Nothing did, because that's what I already expected. Because the Bilderbergs have completely infiltrated our government on every level, except maybe local levels, but, any important position has already been infiltrated by the Bilderberg decades ago, including the presidency. And so, it didn't surprise me at all. But now, mind you, I cut the news out of my life 20 years ago. Completely. Newspaper, television news. For a while when I got my smartphone, if I Google something, it would pop up with like news articles, and of course, it's shit that pissed me off. So after a short while, I finally figured out how to turn all that shit off. So when I Google something, all it shows me is my past searches. I have to actually click something to see any kind of news articles or anything else, which I keep that off intentionally. So anyhow, all the little bits of corruption that I heard were from videos suggested on YouTube. Now, if you notice, when he first came in office, there was just an insane amount of corruption that was coming out left and right. I mean, they were just turning this shit over like they're dumping a fucking dump truck of corruption information, just dumping it out in front of you, non-stop. Now, all of a sudden, I heard that Trump supposedly reclaimed the Panama Canal. I don't know if that's true or not. This is all on stuff on YouTube that is suggested, claiming he reclaimed the Panama Canal and sold what their little news that they were showing called key ports around the Panama Canal to BlackRock, which is one of the Bilderberg's investment firms. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, that's like the three main investment firms where they use it to probably manage their corporations, all the money. They handle $10 trillion worth of money every year. So, if that's true, if he really sold these key ports to BlackRock for just $6 billion, and I heard people saying, it's an outrage, I can't believe he ripped them off. Like, who the fuck cares even if he does rip off the super rich motherfuckers? Does anybody actually give a fuck? I know I don't. But, anyhow, looks like it's gonna rain. So, that aside, I have heard that the Bilderbergs have been buying up, and I just refer as everything, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, everything they do, all of it Bilderberg, because that's where the orders come from. Larry Fink, he's a Bilderberg member. That they are... Now, if you hear the term private equity, that is basically saying that the Bilderbergs are doing this or buying this. Oh, private equity is buying up towns' water, storm, and sewer infrastructures. Private equity, that means the Bilderbergs are buying it. And they're paying for, like, smaller towns, they're paying, $4, $5, $6 billion for one town's fucking utilities forever. It just becomes theirs no matter what. And so private equity has been buying up towns' infrastructures for $4 to $6 billion, from what I've heard, the few stories I've heard. So that apparently $4, $5, or $6 billion is jack shit, apparently, because if they feel that owning a town's infrastructure, and I'm talking just storm, water, and sanitary, is worth $5, $6 billion, then clearly he just basically handed them these key ports. Now, if they call them key ports, that means there must be some kind of strategic advantage of owning these ports. And I don't mean strategic in like, communist versus capitalist, blah, blah, blah. They call it, communism versus democracy. It's not. It's communism versus capitalism, consumerism. That's what it's against. And all these leaders are all part of the same group anyways. But so yeah, my point is, if he sold them these so-called key ports for just $6 billion, then he pretty much just gave it to them for free. Especially companies that have $10 trillion in investments that they're making every year. $6 billion, that's it? Hell, you probably fucking go to one of the Bilderberg's houses and dig around the couches and come up with $6 billion fucking dollars that just fell in between the cushions. Now, either way, I mean, he probably, if he wasn't, like, to me, I think that was his bid to become a member. If that was really true, And it seems like he did sell these ports, whether he reclaimed the Panama Canal or not, for real. But, yeah, that would tell me that that was probably his bid to become a member. And then if you notice, ever since then, ain't heard fucking word one about any more corruption. Ain't seen anything else going on that they were unearthing every fucking day. And my guess is he just told them, hey, if I get in office a second time, I'm just going to start outing you guys on everything I can find until you finally decide to let me become a member. And my guess is they said, okay, you know what? Sell us these ports, which how they didn't own them to fucking begin with is beyond me. And I want to say there might have been ports. There's some guy, supposedly some guy from China, I believe, who owned a company who owns ports around Hong Kong. I think some of those were part of the deal, and around the Panama Canal. I don't know all the details, but I'm sure it's out there if you look it up. If this is in fact true, I believe that was his bid, and I think it's true because, like I said, there's been no more talk about corruption, not a single bit of it. And all of a sudden, supposedly, Elon and Trump are fighting? Sure. But, you know, it's like, oh, okay, all of a sudden, all that whole shit he was doing just seemed to stop. Isn't that interesting? And so, I don't know, man. It's just, they have all of us, all the social programming that goes on. And people don't realize, like, all new TV shows, movies, and especially advertising, things they see on the internet, that all this shit has insane amounts of social programming in it. I studied psychology and sociology in college and history, minored in all three of them, and we had an entire semester class just about advertising. It was a psychology class, one of the best classes I ever took. It helped me to realize how much bullshit is in advertising, and there is a lot of social programming going on in commercials. You just have to know how to spot it. Now, they've been using this shit to socially program people in all kinds of ways. You know, you look at things like during COVID, I was one of the people asking questions. And I tell you, man, I would ask questions on YouTube on comment sections, and there are some people who just be fucking assholes about it. Like, who the fuck are you? Who do you think you are? The experts know what they're doing. The scientists know what they're doing. I'm like, well, who the fuck are these so-called scientists and so-called experts anyways? You got any names? Any backgrounds? Do you know what they did before they were a so-called expert in their field? No, I didn't think so. But people get awful crazy about that because it's like the Bilderbergs have basically ingrained into people's minds since they were born to defend the hard to set the word and I can't think of it now. To defend the story that they're all giving us, basically. I don't know why I can't think of that fucking word right now. The narrative. To basically not only believe the narrative, but to defend it. Even against each other. They've used the news and all kind of shit to get us to constantly hate each other and blame each other for the problems. And we're not the problem at all. We could be the solution, but everyone's too busy being convinced that someone other than themselves, who's also in the same boat as them, has to be the problem. Like, you know, we're a bunch of poor people on the bottom of a ship, and then it's a poor person who's drilling a hole in the bottom of the boat that is only going to flood the section that we're in. When in fact, the person doing it is really a Bilderberg or one of their cronies dressed up to look like one of us, you know? And it's like, you know, people on welfare are not the problem. People who have food stamps are not the problem. People who go to work and work their jobs, their normal jobs, are not the problem. The people that are the problem are the super fucking rich. And one of their key psychological things they did was to convince us that it has to be somebody else amongst us who's causing all the problems. They've done a good job too. Because if you look in the 60s, you look at Kent State and other, you know, protests that the National Guard were called out to, but that one especially. My thought on it is, my theory is, which I call it a theory, but if somebody could try to prove it to me in a different way, I'd be open to changing what I call my theory, but I'm pretty positive, just based on studying the world and people my entire life, and especially in the 25 years of adulthood since I turned 20, you know, that I've seen for myself. Now, back in the 60s, they were calling out the National Guard to squash protests. At Kent State, I believe it was 4 students got shot and killed by the National Guard. And when they seen this tragedy, the Bilderbergs, not that they gave a fuck about the students that got shot or the people that did the shooting, but they realized that, if they keep going this route, that it could spark a revolution. So, around the 60s, what was becoming popular at the time? Psychology. Freud and his bullshit. His fucking bullshit nephew, I can't think of that cocksucker's name right now, but he's a piece of shit. The dude that came up with consumerism. Hell, there's a special spot in hell waiting for that dude too. But anyways, I think that the Bilderbergs decided to take a psychological approach to the situation and decide that apparently shooting down students on a college campus for protesting probably not the best way of going about things. So instead of potentially sparking an actual revolution, what they did was start using psychology to just socially program people. It's also called brainwashing, but it's not the same as like typical brainwashing, like Manchurian Candidate kind of brainwashing. It's like, it's just things, social norms that were created to help the super rich that are running everything. So after such events like Kent State, I think they use psychology to just start, in every way they can. Movies, TV shows, and music, any kind of entertainment, and especially advertising. They use it to start programming people to just not give a shit about anything important or relevant. And it worked. If you notice, MTV came out in like 1981, I believe. 80, 81. It's like right around the time I was born. Like, I think just a few months before, possibly. In 81, I believe it was 81. MTV came out. And look what MTV has done. It went from being about music to being about bullshit very quickly. The so-called Real World was like the first hit reality show along with Road Rules. And they didn't catch on for a while, but eventually, somebody was like, let's just keep doing that. And they did, and that's pretty much, 30 to 50% of all there is to watch anymore. So, what was I say here? I'm losing my original train of thought here with the psychology aspect. But, that's what it was. Yeah, they used it. They used psychology to make, and the news to make us keep hating each other instead of hating the people we should hate. And it works like a fucking charm, man. I mean, if you ask most people what the problem is in the world, they're probably going to say some other blue-collar individual or someone that's on our poor level. Because, I mean, face it, most of us are fucking poor, especially with prices the way they are now. They keep us hating each other and fighting amongst each other so that we never stop arguing long enough to look and go, oh, those rich bastards over there, they're the ones fucking causing this shit. And it worked. It fucking worked. It's worked for decades. They have trained people to not care anything about real shit or important shit, to only care about just nonsensical bullshit, which is why so many people can't get enough of like TikTok and bullshit social media sites, because that's what they're trained to love. And it's crazy because, I mean, look at I wonder how many hours just since smartphones came out, how many hours have been wasted doing completely unproductive nonsense bullshit. If you tabbed it all up from like 2007 till now, it's got to be like as long as scientists claim we've been around or what have you, it's probably been like just multiple times. I heard Call of Duty, just the hours logged into Call of Duty are longer than the entire existence of humanity. That's fucking insane. Now granted, there's a lot of people playing and it's all put together, but it's like things like video games, games on your phone, social media are used and designed to make you waste as much of your life as possible, because they don't want you to do anything productive. I'm gonna pause because I gotta go piss and I gotta get some water. So my mouth is dry as shit from this coffee, so we will return. Alright, so we moved inside because it's just too fucking hot out there and too much going on. Now Ripley wants to play because I'm back inside. Ripley, come here, baby. Come on, that ain't for you. Get up here. Come on, up. Come on, get up on the couch. Up, 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 up. Come on, careful now. She got her diapers on because she is in her second heat cycle since I found her roaming the streets. So she leaves bloody pee drops everywhere, which is kind of strange because I'm like, why she got bloody piss? And then the vet at the emergency place told me that it's like they're going through the period, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense now. Thank God it's only twice a year, but she's got her diapers on. Look at the little diapers on. Yeah, she's good with them though. We should be getting about done. It's been over 2 weeks. Anyhow, so the Bilderbergs have been using psychology to keep us hating each other. They use the news especially to keep us hating each other, and it works like a fucking charm. Rip, come on, baby. We're not playing just now. We'll play when I'm done. Come on. Hold on. All right, sorry. I told her when I came back in we'd play, and well, I'm back in and she wants to play, so I told her I'm not finished yet though. Oh, it's just shadows on my shirt. Okay, so they've been using that to keep us hating each other, and it works because how many people out there actually idolize the super rich? How many people out there would love to be them? How many people out there just watching constant information about, you know, what the super rich are doing? Who gives a fuck what they're doing? I mean, as far as their personal lives, I'm talking about what they're doing to us that I care about. So, why does this camera keep moving? It's got that stability control, and it's like I can see shit moving in the background, even though the phone ain't moving. But anyways, they have designed things like video games and games on your phone, social media, all this shit to just make you waste as many hours of your life as possible. Because if you're spending, 4 or 5 hours a day wasting your life, you're not doing anything productive or, educating yourself as to what's going on in the world and trying to find a way to fix it. Now, and it's not against anybody. This shit was made for a reason because it works. Hell, I know. I have never been a big video game person, but I know when Grand Theft Auto 4 came out and you could finally play online, dude, I fucking played my ass off on that one. I get that the shit can be addicting. It's made to be addicting because they want you to spend as much time as possible using these things. Even in the movies, man, like, I forget the details. It's out there. But there's subtle things in movies that they do to continue to further promote the social programming. And so, this shit has been used to keep us fighting each other, to keep us from fighting them, and to waste as much of our life as possible. Now, let's take things that are my theories, like September 11th and COVID, and try to tie them to the Bilderbergs, okay? Well, 9/11, like I said, you got the U.S. wouldn't take the oil, and the Patriot Act, the so-called Patriot Act. Both of those were key things. Like I said, we had no idea what was coming, technology-wise, when the Patriot Act was passed. I don't know if anybody would have put up any more of a fuss, even if they did know, because, I would have never guessed that, like, your phone was going to be so important that you can actually leave your wallet at home, but you have to have your phone. Because you can pay for everything on your phone. Tap your phone to pay. They get everything hooked up to this phone, and they have already made it damn near an indispensable fucking item. Your personal tracking device. Now, that's what they are. But, we call them phones, smartphones, cell phones, whatever. But if you think about it in the terms of a tracking device, think about the fact that, like, when in the 80s we talked about, one day the government was going to baby, calm. Was going to round us all up and force us to put a chip in our brains so they could track our thoughts and what we're doing and where we're at and so forth. Well, they've already done it. They just didn't have to force us to put chips in our brains. Instead, they convinced all of us to not only buy our tracking devices and to pay insane monthly fees to keep them fucking operative, but also to constantly upgrade. Ripley, baby, we are not playing right now. I need you to stop, okay? I need you to stop, please. I need to get this out there. Leave me. Stop. We'll play when I'm done. You're just taking up more time. Just chill, please. We also pay large fees to constantly upgrade them to the latest and greatest tracking device. Now, if you just start replacing the word phone or cell phone or smartphone with tracking device, it's going to make you start looking at the world a little differently. Like, oh, hold on, I gotta get my tracking device out so I can make this purchase. Or I gotta get my tracking device out so I can check my bank account info. I gotta get my tracking device out to take this picture or whatever. And, people will wait in lines in any weather overnight
to be the first to get the newest and latest, greatest tracking device. And it's like, dude, that's insane. That's fucking insane. But that is psychological marketing at its best. Now, not only do we pay these insane fees to keep them going every month, but you have insurance you got to pay for your phone and all kind of bullshit. Dude, I'm certain that since the year 2000, just with cell phones originally and then smartphones since then, I am willing to bet that the Bilderbergs have made billions, if not hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars off of us actively buying, maintaining, and upgrading our own tracking devices. Like right now, there's a little green dot on my phone. You know why? Because whenever you're taking the video, it's tracking your location so it can add tags to your shit that I don't really need it to add anyways. So I don't know why that shit's on, but it comes on or else I can't use the camera. Now, you know what else they've done? Let me show you. Even this is crazy because even I knew better, and even I ended up doing this because of Jackie. Hold on, please. Look at what is sitting in my window to watch the car. Yep, that is in fact the camera. Even my dumbass came and bought a camera. I had two of them, but one of them broke. Now, normally I unplug them when I'm gone. Ripley, baby, come here, darling, stop, mommy, you gotta stop. I know you want to play, baby. I can't play and do this at the same time. Just give me some time, baby. Think how many people have cameras all over their homes. Now, when I was, what I do for my job, I enter people's homes quite often. I know I'm not a burglar. Ripley, stop, baby. I mean it, stop. My job requires that we go into people's homes quite often. I've been in a couple thousand homes in the area that I work. And not always, but I'd say, Ripley, baby, stop doing that, darling. Leave it be. I see cameras all over the place. Outside homes, inside homes. So not only, like, when you watch 1984, I think reading it is probably just as advantageous, but watching it is as well, because you see the guy walks in, there's a camera on his wall, and he has to, like, show he doesn't have it, go through his pockets and show that he doesn't have anything he ain't supposed to have. Like a book, because God forbid they had a book. And we literally have paid hundreds of billions, if not trillions, setting up a fucking spy infrastructure for the Bilderbergs and maintaining it. Thankfully, they don't have to pay a monthly fee for that. Aren't they so kind as not charge us a monthly fee to fucking run their surveillance system for them? But if your camera breaks, then you gotta buy a new one. They don't supply it for you. But either way, they managed to do it very, very sneakily, and it worked. And most people's homes have cameras. We all have fucking smartphones now. And they are constantly tracking everything that we're doing. Now, this is why it's hard to try to force this, because when I was pissed, I had so much more. I was just shit was coming to me. And now it's like I'm kind of trying to think about how to put this all together. And, because I had a lot of really valid points that day, but my point is I want to get something out there at least. I can always add another video if necessary, but once AI goes live, I'm sure that it's going to, because you're talking in seconds, especially AI hooked to a quantum computer. In a very, very short amount of time, it can sift through the entire internet and take every post, every video, anything that goes against the narrative and wipe it out like it never happened. And once that happens, we're really fucked. Now they got AI can make videos that look real as shit, and it's like, they can make a video of anybody doing anything and people just believe it, because even knowing that AI can do this, it can be done with AI, people would believe what they see. Now, what else AI can do is, if you watch 1984, the main guy, his job was to work for the place that was actively destroying history, wiping out history and rewriting it right then and there. That's what AI is going to do. It will be able to wipe out any details, any documentation, anything on the internet. Take it right off. That's why books are important. We need to keep books. Hoard books. Keep them. I have a whole bunch of really good fucking books. You got to have books, because that's one thing that AI cannot edit. Not until they send robots around to your homes to come collect your guns and your books. But isn't it crazy that, like, Hitler, two of the things that he did when trying to take power or taking power, disarm the population and destroy books. I mean, that right there should tell you that those are two of the most advantageous weapons we have to fight an oppressor. Now, if you look back at history, rich people, rich people, super rich people are the problem. They have always been the problem. They will always be the problem unless something's done about it. Now, problem is if you just hit a button and all the super rich people just died instantly, there's somebody to take over for them. I guarantee you there's a successor for every person. So that isn't really going to do it. Plus, let's keep in mind that since people like Putin and whoever else has run Russia, England, France, the U.S., that they all have their hands on nuke button. I don't know about Britain and France. I don't know. Maybe they have nukes. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But, the Bilderbergs are the ones that have their finger on the nuke button. That's the thing. And I don't think that they would ever start a nuclear war as long as they need us. But with AI, if they start making robots, they might not need us anymore. And then a small plague could wipe out all humans on the planet, and then the Bilderbergs could be hiding in their fucking under, their bunkers under the mountains and shit until it's safe to come out. Now, 9/11 was a terrible one, man. I hadn't watched documentation on that since back in when it happened, or within like that couple years. I haven't watched anything about it since, and I started watching documentaries and rewatching live news footage of the event. And dude, it brought back some fucking anger and some shit inside that has since went away because it was so long ago. It's almost feel like it never happened, except to the people who lost loved ones. Now, when you look at that event and you see the chaos and the destruction and the shit that these people who either died or just barely survived had to go through, it's insane. One guy who was supposedly the last known survivor to make it out of the towers before they collapsed, and I think he was in the underground tunnel structure as it collapsed, and he got knocked out, blacked out or something, woke up in the hospital. Supposedly he's the last known survivor of the people in those buildings, and he just fucking made it out by a miracle, dude. Nothing short of. Because they were trapped on a stairwell, and he managed to somehow push up against the wall, and something opened up, and he was able to get through. So when he got to the main floor and was going to go out the door, they had security guards in the building saying, no, you can't come outside because there's fucking bodies falling from up above into the courtyard. So they had to make them all go in the underground tunnel structure so they didn't get hit by people who were just so fucking frantic that they felt that jumping 1,000 feet to their death was better than burning alive or being blown the fuck up or crushed in a fucking skyscraper falling on top of them. That shit will bring back some serious emotions, man. The Falling Man was one of the documentaries, and then just watching the live footage, and then just seeing people fucking jumping, man. People who were so fucking horrified at what was behind them that 1,000-foot drop looked way more appealing to the point that they just said fuck it and jumped. And I don't fault those people at all. I mean, if I had to choose between burning to death or a free fall, I'd rather have a free fall too, man. I've been skydiving. I know at least, you get some kind of a quick thrill right before you go as opposed to being burned fucking alive. Now, over 1,000, I can't really grant the total. Was it between 1 and 3,000 people roughly? I forget the total. But regardless, all that shit done. Now, I'm watching this shit where the day of the event, they should have been able to tell what was going on. The people at the fucking FAA, whoever's controlling the flights, the flight controllers and whatnot, should have been able to tell much sooner that something was going on. But of course, you don't expect something like that. But the fucking CIA was watching. They knew since Bin Laden's unsuccessful first attempt at bombing the towers, they knew that he was planning an attack for years in advance. They knew he was planning an attack that was most likely going to involve giant commercial airliners. And they were watching him. They were watching all his people. Ripley, look at me, baby. All right, hold on a second. All right. Well, I just had to go back outside because Ripley wants to play so much. She ain't gonna let me be finish this video. And I can't blame her because I don't get nearly enough time to spend with her as it is. And I would love to be hanging out and playing with her. But this information is something needs to be put out there because I've been seeing a lot of videos lately they're just like random videos of random people popping up who it finally seems as though I'm seeing other people who not only realize something ain't right in this world, but are also pissed off about it. I have to probably pause several times to drink some water because between the cigarettes and the coffee, my mouth is dry as fuck. But outside. This is back here so nobody runs it over. Anyhow, now it's hard to remember where the fuck I was just at without ending the video. But anyhow, they're doing all kind of devious shit to us, and a lot of people don't even realize what's going on. Like, consumerism even becoming a thing is fucking disgusting. I wish I could think of that guy's name, because I know his name. Freud's nephew. That came up with the concept of consumerism. That's just a fucking scummy thing to do to begin with. Oh, and I know his fucking name too. It's not like I don't know it. I've said it 100 times, but it's just blanking right now. But just look up consumerism or Freud's cousin, or I'm sorry, Freud's nephew in consumerism. It'll come up with his name. But this guy, they paid him to come up with a concept too, because it was like one of the car dealerships, like Ford or somebody was like, hey, we built all these cars and now nobody's buying them because everybody that could afford a car already had one. So what do? Come up with consumerism. Create a disposable society where everything, including the people, are able to be just thrown away or canceled. You know? But no, like with the items, use it for a little while, throw it away, and you got to keep up with the Joneses. You got to stay up at the top. You got to look more important than everybody else. You got to have the newest, latest, greatest shit, whether you need it or not. And one of the lines from the movie Fight Club that I've always loved, and it hit me even when I first watched it, was he said, advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate to buy shit we don't need. And that's exactly what consumerism has done to us. I work at a place, at my job, they have an electronics recycling. You would be fucking dumbfounded at how much people will throw away perfectly good, expensive fucking electronics just because they got a new one. I found a 63 or 65 inch curved 4K like high def television that works perfectly fine. Somebody just threw it away. Those things were like $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 when they came out, and it's a Samsung too. And yeah, somebody just threw it the fuck away. I'm like, okay, well, I wish I had enough money where it didn't matter if I threw some shit like that away. Like, fuck, I'd be finding like a friend or a friend of a friend, somebody I'd be trying to find to take the fucking thing, even for free, just so somebody can use it instead of just throwing it the fuck away. So some company can come through and scrap it for its fucking parts. Which I think I just finally found one of those centers where they actually bring the shit to, because I just noticed yesterday, on the way I take to go get coffee over at Speedway. Yeah, none of that fancy shit for me, man. No, thank you. I found a building, like a small warehouse kind of building, that the door was closed, but they were just massive boxes of electronics, these big giant cardboard boxes, which are what they provide for people to put stuff in, just overflowing everywhere. So some knocked over, spilt out everywhere. It's just, they just go and scrap all these electronics for any valuable metals they can get out of them, chips or whatever the fuck it is. But yeah, I think I found one of those places. I know the places that pick it up, but I'd never seen where it goes to until yesterday. Anyways, this disposable society we live in, like, this isn't natural. I know they want people to think that like consumerism is a natural thing. It's not natural. It's man-made. It's something that I just came up with here recently that I've never heard anybody else say. At least I don't know. Maybe I might be quoting someone and don't realize it. But just like how they'll tell you that on paper, communism and socialism, like, they sound good on paper. But the problem is you get some rich maniacal fuck who takes over and hoards all the wealth to himself. Like, look at Lenin and Stalin. They were, well, I don't know if Lenin was poor. Maybe he was. Maybe it was, hell, I don't remember the names, man. But the guy that was in cahoots with him, I don't think Trotsky's the right name, but maybe it is. I don't know. Anyways, but like, you look at Stalin. Stalin came from a poor background, and he fought the super rich. That was what the whole uprising was about. And they killed off the Tsar and his family, and instead of distributing the wealth, he just hoarded it for himself. and kept things in Russia either as bad as they already were or worse, possibly. Now, what I have to say is that capitalism is also sounds good on paper, but in practice, it's fucking bullshit, dude, because when you're a small group of people and you're out, we're talking the group's so small, we outnumber the super rich. Like, we outnumber the Bilderbergs by, like, almost 23 million to 1. I mean, dude, we drastically outnumber them. And, hold on, my fucking thought process derailed. Oh, the capitalism. It's supposed to have different companies compete for lower prices and better quality shit. That's what capitalism is supposed to do. But when you have a small group of individuals, I hesitate to even call them people, who own fucking everything, then there is no real capitalism, because then they're just competing to see who can bump their prices up the highest and people will still pay. That's what our capitalism is doing for us as we speak. Because if you start looking at the intertwined web of shit that these fuckers have created and have done, it's insane. The reason that they can't go after them for monopolies, not like the government actually would anyways, but if they were to go after them for monopolies, the reason that they don't is because they don't own an entire field outright. So I looked at like one person, Warren Buffett, who is definitely a Bilderberg member. Now, his holdings, and this is from, sorry, I had an alarm go off. This is just from what the internet provided me. So, if the internet is, obviously can be full of shit, this is like the information that they've even still have provided me. Even with all the covering up and censorship and so forth. Warren Buffett is the majority shareholder of Berkshire Hathaway. And I'm sure anybody that happens to watch this video and stayed this long would know what Berkshire Hathaway is. They're a real estate company. Oh, but wait, there's more. I thought they were just a realty company, but then I started looking into it, and oh no, Berkshire Hathaway owns an awful lot of shit. Geico, first of all, they have a whole branch dedicated to insurance companies. Another one invested in power. They own the BNSF Railroad, if I said that right. They own that outright. They own Geico. They own, all different kinds. There's like 5 or 6 different branches, but some of the companies that everybody would know, they own Dairy Queen, they own Duracell, they own Geico, they own Fruit of the Loom, they own Heinz Kraft, which I didn't even know Heinz and Kraft had merged. Apparently they did, and they own it outright. And these are things that Berkshire Hathaway owns outright, okay? Not percentages of. They own Benjamin Moore Paint. I mean, we're talking all kind of random ass shit that they own because they're collecting all this stuff up and trying to condense it into as few people, as few overall head corporations and people as possible. So just look up Berkshire Hathaway. What does Berkshire Hathaway own? Okay. Now the majority shareholder is Warren Buffett, so that puts him in charge of Berkshire Hathaway and every one of their companies. Because I often wondered, how the hell does Geico have so much money that they can just non-stop fucking advertise on billboards, radio, TV, internet? It's all over the fucking place, man. You can't go a day without seeing a fucking Geico commercial somewhere. And I often wondered, even during the Super Bowls, man, like, how the fuck do they have the money to do that? Oh, because they're backed by Berkshire Hathaway that owns a fucking insane amount of shit. And then they own, like, I want to say a credit card company and some other crazy shit that everybody would know. I have to look it up again to see it. But then they own percentages of other things like Bank of America Corp, Apple. They own like between 5 and 6% of Apple, which isn't very much, but it's still worth a ton of money. They own shares in other banks. I'm drawing a blank on this, but the facts, just look up all the shit that Berkshire Hathaway owns. Now,
guess who minority shareholders on Berkshire Hathaway happens to be? You guessed it, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. They pop up fucking everywhere. Now, they own under 10%, with BlackRock owning the most, Vanguard owning second most, and State Street owning the third, so like the least out of the three. And from everything I've looked up, it seems like BlackRock always owns more, and then Vanguard will own next, and State Street owns the least out of the three of them in any given field. Now, I've seen that Warren Buffett also owns like between 40 and 50% of Apple shares himself. Now, even if he owns just 50, with his shares and Berkshire Hathaway shares that he's the controlling member of, that gives him control of Apple. Yeah, I'm willing to bet Steve Jobs was a member too, since he created the smartphone. I'm willing to bet he was a Bilderberg as well. So you got like his other holdings, like I said, Apple's one of them, and he owns between 40 and 50%. So even if like he owned 40% and Berkshire Hathaway owns between 5 and 6%, that still probably would make him the majority shareholder, because I've seen things where like BlackRock and Vanguard and them are like the majority shareholders, but they own less than 10%. So I'd imagine that even 40% is going to be easily give him controlling interest. So how many people out there knew that their iPhones were being brought to them by Warren Buffett at this point? I didn't know that until I looked it up. He has money invested in oil, and every one of his investments, even the things that are like less than 5%, are worth at least single-digit billions. Now, his other ones, like he owns part of Coca-Cola, like a small portion of that. He owns another credit card or something. Occidental Oil is his company. Trying to think what else. Well, it's hard because I looked this all up on my phone, and I'm doing the video on my phone, so it's kind of hard to have this information in front of me. But start looking into it, and what I've realized is there's just like an interconnected web of like everybody owns a percentage of everything. All these super rich own a percentage of everything, and one or two things they have way more interest in, way more shares in, they have the majority shares or controlling interest of, and then all the rest are just making billions off of everything else regularly every year. And so when I often wondered how they not go after companies for any kind of monopoly. Well, there is no monopoly, because the monopoly applies only to one person, not to a group of people that own everything, which is kind of fucked up, but they made sure the laws were set that way. Now, when you start seeing how much shit that they're invested in, and this is just one person, man, this is one guy and all the shit that he owns, and it's scary. And when you hear like, say Bezos, they claim he's worth about $500 billion, okay? Now, that's $500 billion of what he has claimed, okay? That doesn't count overseas or offshore accounts with billions or trillions of dollars in it that nobody knows about, like their Swiss bank accounts and offshore accounts and so forth. So in truth, we really have no idea how much any of these guys actually own, especially when you factor in the money of all the items that they possess, like mansions, yachts, super yachts, all that shit, plus all their companies and everything else. Like, it's hard to really put an actual figure on it. Plus, you have to know every one of them has money hidden in offshore accounts or overseas bank accounts. And so, you start to see a picture here of like people trying to control the world. Now, what would they want to control the world for? Well, to keep making as much money off as possible, but also to control people and to stop dissent and to stop anybody from trying to fight back. Because they don't want that. They don't want actual competition. Like the guy, I don't know when it was, I heard about him, who had created a vehicle that ran on water, and its only emission, I think, was oxygen, like clean oxygen. and then he just up and dies out of nowhere. I'm sure it was just a natural death. I'm sure. No, nothing suspicious there. And then there's another big one where a guy had come up. Maybe this is the guy, but there was some guy created some kind of invention, and they were trying to buy it from him, and he wouldn't sell. And next thing you know, he comes running out of a restaurant screaming he's been poisoned and dies right there on the street. And they say, oh, it was a heart attack. Well, maybe it was, but what caused the fucking heart attack? That you don't ever know, because they don't want you to know. The things that they don't want you to know, they have a good way of keeping it hidden from people, because they know most people are too busy playing Candy Crush and just endlessly scrolling social media, the same feed they were looking at yesterday, and just going over it again in case they're missing the other Miles dribble that they forgot to consume. That most people aren't going to take time to look this shit up. And it's true. Most people don't even think about it. If you don't know that a group of people is around the world, why would you look into it? I thank God every day that he made sure that in 2004 I had learned of the Bilderbergs. I was already looking at the world and trying to figure some shit out as it was from like 2000 on, but by 2004, God introduced me to the concept of the Bilderberg Group. And I realized, oh, this is it. Now, it's just a name I'm giving a group of super rich people, okay? They have other groups that they're involved in and other shiesty shit and so forth, but I'm just trying to give them a name so we can refer to them as something other than just the super rich. The Bilderberg Group is what they were given, the name they were given, because they denied their existence for so long that they never officially had a name. The Bilderberg Hotel in Switzerland was where they first met. Switzerland, Swiss bank accounts. Interesting. Was the first country they met in 1954. And people call them the Bilderberg Group because that's the name of the hotel, because they didn't have a name. So finally, after 2000, at some point after that, they finally acknowledged their existence of this group. And they still don't tell us anything. And, now they just pretend that I think they have a website that they made now, and it's like some bullshit saying they're trying, to bring about prosperity and freedom around the world. Well, the U.S. government isn't in the habit of going around spreading freedom and or democracy whatsoever. They go around pillaging countries for their resources. Look at what United Fruit was able to do. I don't remember the country. It was in Central and South America. But they wanted the bananas they were selling to people to be cheaper. So what do? They took the elected leader of the country, had him executed with a coup that they funded. And, the rich people funded. And the American government probably funded too, I'm sure. And this is before the Bilderbergs, mind you. And they put in a dictatorship that made life way worse than it ever was before. And then they just basically enslaved the people there to help them to pillage all their resources for next to nothing. Okay, that was before the Bilderberg Group that was probably a couple decades before. Possibly, don't quote me on that, I didn't check the date on that, but still, I do believe it was before the Bilderbergs were in existence. Now, what our government does, unbeknownst to the soldiers who have to go fight these fucked up wars, they claim that we're spreading freedom and democracy, but really what they're spreading is terror, chaos, and just, like I said, pillaging resources like, the Middle East and oil. So, but they have troops and they have the population convinced that what we're doing must be right, or else we wouldn't be doing it, because how could the government of America be doing terrible things in the world? Well, they are, I promise you, and they have been for a long time. The kind of shit that the government's doing are things that would make the so-called founding fathers of this country roll over in their graves, because this is not what they intended, I'm sure. Which is why in their Constitution they said, the Second Amendment in the Constitution was the right to bear arms. Do you notice how high up on the fucking list that is? And if you notice, any country that has a dictator or ever had a dictator, one of the first things they do is disarm the population. So for all the anti-gun people out there, I get that maybe you lost somebody in a shooting or something, but it's not the gun's fault. It's the piece of shit that pulled the trigger, okay? It's like a grenade with the pin still in it. You can be mad at the grenade, but the grenade ain't got to pop its pin out and blow itself up. Somebody has to pull that fucker, and then it becomes deadly. Now,
They use any chance they can to try to convince as many people as possible that guns are terrible. Guns are terrible. It's not the fucking guns. And the legal owners that they keep making more loopholes for people that fucking jump through, or not loopholes, but more fucking hoops have to jump through to be able to actually buy a gun legally, are so fucking absurd because the people who are buying them legally aren't the fucking problem anyways. Drastically more often it's somebody who stole a gun, found one, bought it illegally, you know. And criminals that carry guns, if they have a felony, they're already not allowed to carry a gun anyways. So, you think that's going to stop them? Nope. The criminals are going to keep carrying guns. The guns don't disappear because they get banned. Heroin, cocaine, things of that nature have been banned for, 100 fucking years or so? Give or take a couple decades. But people die from them every fucking day. Who would have thought? That's because when you ban something, it doesn't disappear. It just becomes harder to find. That's it. But if it's illegal, a lot of decent law-abiding people aren't going to want to fucking break the law by buying a gun. Especially if there's a steep penalty involved. So, why would the government do this, you say? I'm glad you asked. Because the government is trying to spread chaos and fear around our country. Because the more chaos and fear there is, just the quicker people are just ready and willing to hand over as many rights as possible, including the right to own guns. And if you notice, it says in our Constitution that it is not just our job, but our fucking duty to fight tyranny. We've been slacking for a long fucking time because it's here, it's been here. The tyranny is real. And the problem is, like I said, they make us all think it's somebody else who's on our level, and that it has to be their fault somehow. How? I don't know. But it's not. It's the super rich motherfuckers. Good Lord, it's the storm coming. Well, it doesn't look nearly as impressive on the camera, but that is some dark, dark clouds. So I have a feeling I'm going to have to go in and wrestle Ripley to get this video finished. But let's turn to COVID real quick. Why in the world would they create and spread COVID? Let's see. It's already known that the 10 richest people, they say in the world, but the 10 richest people we know of, their fortunes multiplied 10 times during the COVID pandemic. That right there is enough reason for them to do it. Second of all, they come up with a disease that's deadly to people who are already sick, to the elderly, to people that are on, either on Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, even though that shit's all bullshit anyways. The locusts are going nuts. This storm is getting very, very close, so I'm probably gonna have to go inside here pretty soon because it looks fucking wild. The sky almost looks black, dude. That's how dark it is. Like that thick black smoke from a fire, from like a house burning or something. Like it's that color dark. You just can't tell on the camera. But anyways, so you create something that's gonna kill. They ain't gonna kill out the world because they still need us right now. But they get something that will kill off elderly people, people who are sick, people that are using their insurance, people on Social Security, people on health care, all these different things. They're trying to take out just enough people, that way they can keep stealing more Social Security money. And because as even Trump has said, that when people die, that money just keeps on getting sent, but to a different account all of a sudden. And they claim there's people that are between 100 and 200 years old, that there's millions of people that are that old, which we all know there is not. Damn, this thing's moving in quick. So anyways, that's another reason right there. God, these things are loud as fuck. Here's another thing too. Control. To see how far they could push the world, and each country is probably different. Like here in America, say, try to push, see how far they could push us without getting any pushback in return. And they got pretty far. They had the whole world fucking shut down over a fucking flu. I've had COVID 3 times. It ain't that bad, man. I mean, really, I didn't even take anything. I didn't go to a doctor. I didn't get any antibiotics. I didn't do shit. And guess what? Just like any other flu, I was fine in a few days. This shit's almost over top of me. So, to see how far they can push the world without any pushback. People wearing their fucking death-proof masks. I mean, how many people do you see driving around by themselves in a car with the windows up with their mask on still and nobody else in the car? That's how strong this shit is, this social programming. Now, you hear about Fauci. First off, I didn't know who Fauci was when this shit started because I never turned the news on during COVID either. But I would hear it at places. I'd hear bits and pieces, hear people talking, and you hear about Fauci. As soon as I heard the name Fauci, I'm like, well, first off, if they claim he's the expert, he's got to be full of shit. So whatever the fuck this guy says, I automatically don't believe. And then come to find out, he was responsible for the whole AIDS epidemic. Not so much the AIDS epidemic itself, but as far as people dying from AIDS, it wasn't the AIDS killing people, it was the fucking treatment that he said should be done. And so, yeah, the treatment was killing people, not the disease, and they used that to scare the shit out of people. So I remember when I was a kid, it was like, dude, you get AIDS, it's a death sentence, just like cancer used to be. And so anyhow, they get people wearing masks. And like I said, I heard Fauci, the so-called expert. I'm like, nope, ignore everything he says because it's all bullshit. And I didn't even know about the AIDS thing yet. I heard that on Rogan. That he was the one that proposed the treatment, and the treatment was what was killing people. And never got in trouble. He has a basically like a blanket pardon for anything and everything he's done ahead of time. Even all this bullshit with the COVID, putting people on respirators. I think it was respirators that was killing people. And mind you, when COVID happened, like this is the summer of 22, so we're 2.5 years in. Okay, I took the numbers that everybody knows were fucking faked. Because even people that don't believe there was a conspiracy know that hospitals and shit were lying about the number of deaths from COVID, because the more deaths from COVID they had, the more money they would get. So everybody knows the numbers were fucking, fixed, we'll call it. So I took the numbers that they give us in 2022 in the summer, right about this time 3 years ago, and did the math, and like the U.S., the total number of deaths in the U.S. alone was like 0.05% of the U.S. population actually died from COVID. That's it. Literally, that's it. We're talking like a half of 1/100th of 1/10 of a percent, like nothing. Now, people did die, and I'm sorry for anyone who lost anyone from COVID, but you get my point. Did that really warrant shutting the world down? Now I can see people arguing, well, if they hadn't, then it would have spread much worse. Okay, well, these are the same fucking, the Bilderbergs are the same fuckers that kept air traffic flowing. The entire time COVID was going on. I live in a flight path. Planes never slowed the fuck down. I see multiple flight paths like converge right, literally almost over my place. And they just kept on going. When I tried to tell it to somebody who had been socially programmed better than I was, said, well, they're flying at third capacity. And I said, so what? It could be just the fucking pilots. As long as that pilot doesn't have a fever and gets off in another city and starts walking around, touching shit, breathing out the air, exhaling anywhere out in fucking public, then there it is. One person gets it and it goes from there. So a highly contagious but very non-lethal disease that they convinced the whole world was going to kill us all. And got people to do all kinds of crazy shit because of it. Dude, this storm was fucking wild. And it's actually over top of me now. But the total number of deaths in the entire world that were recorded at the time, it was like 4 million, I think. When you do the math, it was like 0.08% of the world population actually died from COVID. Now, the whole flights, anybody would know, anybody with any sense knows the fastest way to spread an actual disease or a plague or anything would be through air traffic travel, because you can go much further, much faster. Now, the fact that they never shut down the airlines was one reason I figured it was bullshit to begin with, which is another reason I never got my shots. And if it was as deadly as they said, they would have just shut down all air traffic for about a month or so and just squashed it where it was at. Even if you let people drive, most people weren't going long distances unless they had to anyways. So, I hear the rain coming. I better hurry up. So,
yeah, they just kept on going. And people would say, well, the airlines might run out of money. Fuck them, dude. They're owned by super rich motherfuckers too. I don't give a fuck. But anyhow, they would be bailed out by our fucking government like they always are. The airlines were going to go bankrupt in the past, just in my lifetime. And the government just conveniently bailed them out. Shocker. Why? Because it's rich people running the government and rich people who own the fucking airlines. That's why. Just like the world banks. Oh, they're too big to fail. The world banks, we gotta fucking bail them out. From fucking what? Because they made bad investments with all our fucking money? But still probably had hundreds of billions in the fucking bank anyhow, but they don't want to touch that, so they get the U.S. government to fucking bail out these world banks. And it's always been that fucking way for a long, long time, man. Anytime anything goes wrong with rich people shit, guess what happens? They get bailed out. Yeah, it's raining over there. Damn, this storm looks wild. Let me see if I can get any pictures. Man, it just doesn't look as crazy. Doesn't look as crazy as it does in person. In person, these clouds are extremely dark. Gotta get some quick pictures real quick. Fuck it. I don't think I'm taking pictures. Alright, anyhow. Oh, it's getting cool out here. That rain's coming. Oh, yeah, it's fucking downpour over there. But yeah, that's what happens. Rich people use our government that they're running to bail their own bullshit out. And these banks, how could a bank go under like that? A world bank in this day and age, they're, they might not be the ones printing money, but from what I understand, through loans and shit, that's how they basically get more money printed. But they're all in cahoots anyways. But how is it that the one of the major world banks goes bankrupt? Well, if they were even going bankrupt to begin with and it wasn't just a bunch of bullshit, I'm thinking bad investments. Because that's what they do with all their money. They invest it. And if they lose it, well, I guess the government's going to have to bail them out. And that's what the world we're living in today is looking like. This whole housing market crash in 08, I have a feeling it had nothing to do with anything other than the Bilderbergs just making it happen. Because they were able to buy up just insane amounts of houses, because that's what else they're buying up. Homes, private equity is buying up homes everywhere to either rent, sell, lease, whatever, or to knock them down and make more places for rich people to go hang out. All these, the cost of housing going up insanely, that's the Bilderbergs. They're the ones doing it. Because they're trying to break us, people. They're trying to fucking break us. Psychologically and financially trying to break us. And they're doing a fucking good job of it too. At any minute now I'm going to have to pause this shit and run inside. Man, it was nice and sunny when I first came out here. That line, like the weather front moving in was like just almost overhead. And now this shit is wild looking, dude. I figure I finally get a chance to start making this video and then fucking storm comes up. Just wish I could get the color to look right. Yeah, alright. So, yeah. That's why, though. It's all the Bilderbergs, because you hear private equity is buying into this, private equity is buying it. They've been buying up farms everywhere. Just seen a video on YouTube about a girl who owns a farm, she said, and said her neighbor who owns 100 acres across from her has been approached numerous times by people trying to get him to sell his land for solar farming. There's a raindrop. Alright. Pause. Alright, on a side note, it just occurred to me that Ripley hasn't been out since this morning we got up, which is really this afternoon. But either way, I'm going to have to just make a second part here, so I'm going to end this video and start working on a second part because I have to take her out before this rain hits. So I will return.